Mrs. Ernest?
Here.
Mrs. Kelly? Is absent. Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Lighty?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up is recognition of students and staff. Mr. Estes.
Okay, well, we have with us this evening our varsity cheerleading squad, correct? And they're going to please stand up, come up front, tell us who you are and how your season's going.
I'm senior Ezra McKissick. I'm sophomore Kyler Wren.
I'm a junior Carrie Symbol.
I'm Dawn Willis. I'm the cheer coach.
Okay, are you having a good time this year?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of fun? Okay, well, we appreciate you coming tonight and, I'd say keep up the good work. We always, we always like the halftime performances and the special things that you do. Those bring a lot to the program, so thank you.
Do you want to tell them when to go if they want, or?
Oh, yeah. I think they already heard. You do not have to stay around for the rest of the
All
meeting,
right,
so
thank
thank you again for
you.
coming.
Okay, next on the agenda is board responses to previous communications. We do have a response to communication from December 17th. In that meeting, public comments were made about the school's response to an accusation related to student safety. While citizens are welcome to share their thoughts at board meetings, confidential matters related to an investigation are not open for public discussion. The board wants to ensure the community any such concerns are taken seriously, and student safety is our priority. Thorough investigations can take time, and while this investigation is ongoing, it was started promptly after the situation was brought to Mr. Jesko. However, the details of such an investigation will be kept confidential. Additionally, the board encourages everyone to continue to report any concerns immediately. Okay, next on the agenda is hearing of the public, blue cards for items on the agenda, and we have none. The next item on the agenda is items from board president. First up is the administrator report, Mr. Renner. Now we should move this forward.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I actually like the 6:30 start, so I don't know if that's gonna be a normal thing. Before I start my presentation, I want to just share with you, maybe you heard through some of our students and community members that before the holidays, our new assistant principal, Dr. Healthy, he encouraged the staff to decorate, take a day in early December, and as a team of like first grade, second grade, to possibly do some kind of decoration competition to just have some holiday spirit. The idea he had was maybe the staff would stay an hour or so after school one day, decorate their doors, have some snacks, play some Christmas music, do some bonding, and then that would be nice. Well, that turned into a whole lot more than that, to the point where every hallway had a theme. We had, let's see here, kindergarten was Winter Wonderland, first grade was Reindeer Games, second grade was Gingerbread Land, third grade was Buddy the Elf, I think the Elf Land, fourth grade did the whole Christmas tree theme, and the fifth grade did the whole Polar Express. And when I mean they did the whole Polar Express, or any of those themes, the entire hallway was decorated like that. So I just want to share that with you because that was not expected by Dr. Healthy or either of us, but that's just kind of what happens when you work in an elementary building. Staff kind of just tend to just do stuff. You're like, what just happened? What I mostly want to mention though is from the outside, most people just think, wow, that's awesome, and may feel a little chaotic. Yet in the classrooms, it didn't feel that way. And I was, this is just me being honest with you guys, when it first happened in December and I saw the more it just grew, I was like, oh boy, we got 3.5 weeks before Christmas. Oh, we got 3. but when you walked in classrooms, it felt normal. Like, things were being done. It was productive. Kids were happy, but they were still working. And my fear was that we'd get 3 weeks of just absolute energy, and it really wasn't like that, which was really exciting. Just so I want to make it very clear publicly, that is not something Dr. Healthy or I expect that's going to happen in the future. I mean, I can't imagine staff are going to, if they do, it's great, but I can't imagine they're going to do all the hours they spent extra, because of a lot of extra hours they spent. But it was really neat for our kids. So coming back from Christmas has also been really nice. We had our spelling bee on Friday. Mrs. Kelly was there. Mrs. Ernest was there. Yeah, you were there. And we actually had probably 15, 20 parents that came. And most of the parents were able to stay the whole time. From left to right, Max Kell was our 3rd place participant. Margaret Brown in the middle was 2nd place. And Kathy Singh was our 1st place person. She will represent us at the County Spelling Bee on February 22nd at OSU Life and Physical Science Center, the building near room 100 if you're interested in going. I think it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if she's not able to participate, Margaret Brown will be the alternative at that spelling bee. There's also a regional spelling bee, which I don't have the date for that yet, but they'll send that out. Usually they post in the newspaper all the kids' pictures, their bios, so you'll probably see that happening. Max is a 5th grader. Margaret and Kathy are both 4th graders. So that was fun. And you can see, it's nerve-wracking for kids to get in front of their peers and in front of their parents to do that. But good experience. Tonight's the first night for Quiz Bowl for 5th and 6th grade. Our Quiz Bowl team is coached by April Neff. So that's Shawnee. I'm assuming they're probably on their way back now, if not back already. But on the back is Mitchell Roush, then Kat Reeser. In the middle and the back is Korea Lyles. Q, he goes by Q, Quentin Cash, and Aria Sappel complete the back row. In the front row is Ariana Faye, Julian Holloway, and Emma Shaw. So look forward to hearing how they do, not just tonight, but through the whole Quiz Bowl experience. For the elementary, this is one of the few places that we get to go represent Bath Elementary like the other 2 buildings do. So I asked them if they were excited. They're more nervous than excited, I think, tonight. It's new to them. They don't really know exactly what's happening there. Before Christmas break, we had all of our Dibbles winter benchmark assessments, which I've shared with you before. This chart shows kind of the effectiveness of how instruction's going. So, and you guys have this in your packets, but there were 32 students that started well below benchmark at the beginning of the year. And this chart shows you, of those 32 kids, and there's no numbers, this percentage stayed red. Of those 32 kids, this percentage went to yellow, this percentage went to green, and this percentage went to dark blue. So you can see of those 33, it actually started with 33, so we had some students move away, but 33 students in well below benchmark in kindergarten, and in the wintertime there's 12 well below. So I put things green, the things that are positive, and the categories are like, oh, wait a minute. Like, for example, there were 16 students that were yellow at the beginning of the year, and there are now 22. Now, some of those 22 possibly are these kids that were in red and went this way, so it's still good, but yeah, that's why that's in red there. But you're going to see on the STAR assessment, which I'm going to show you a little later too, the results of all of our grades, for the most part, are going in the right direction. And it's a result of, we've talked about this before, it's a result of classroom teachers, Title I tutors and teachers, our aides. It's everybody having a purpose, and what is that purpose? So I'm really excited about what that happened with those grades. Here's 1st grade. So you can see there, we had 40 students in 1st grade, well below benchmark to start the year. Now we have 18. All of the categories in 1st grade went in the right direction, all the levels. The fun thing about that is we were able to, we used to push in with some extra personnel, push into the classroom, meaning classroom teachers teach, and an aide maybe comes to the room for a half hour, 45 minutes, and helps out in the room. At the beginning of the year, we couldn't do that. We had too many interventions to do to try to close the gap. That gap has closed quite a bit, as you can see. So now we are able to push in for part of that time into our 1st grade classrooms. The challenge for our 1st grade staff, and not just this year, it's every year, is we start the year and we have higher numbers, because it's the beginning of the year, and then things we put in place, we see results like this, and then it's a constant juggling of schedules. Like, okay, now I get a half hour extra with a person coming in to help some at-risk students, but I wasn't doing that. How does that impact my day? So that's not easy to think about. I really compliment them for always, having that dialogue. That dialogue's not easy to do with 6 teachers, a special ed teacher, a Title I staff involved in that. So, but the results speak for themselves. Here's our second grade. We stayed the same with those that are well below benchmark. Actually, pretty well stayed the same for all of them. Below benchmark, we went up 1. At benchmark, we went down 4. And above benchmark, down 2. Here's the third grade. Very similar. I'm going to keep reading them all through here. Like I said, this is in your packet. I do apologize. Your packet kind of got cut off at the top, what grade level it is. Okay? Here's our fourth grade. Very similar again. And then our fifth grade. So I think that's important. You guys, you've heard me talk. Anytime I've talked at board meetings, this is common for me, right? I'm going to share with you how we started, and where we're at, and we're always going to look at data. Data talks about where we're at. What are we doing? Obviously, in the elementary world, we're drilling down to specific students and looking at their trend lines. All of these reports, both Dibbles and STAR for us, have a beginning of where they started and where they're at, and it has trend lines. What growth path are they on? If that growth path is not ideal to where they should be, then there's dialogue with classroom teachers and Title I teachers and special ed teachers and aides on what we can do to try to close that gap. We also did the STAR assessment. We just did that last week. So if you have an elementary student, you'll be getting those reports with their grade cards. Let's see here. Grade cards are due next Tuesday, so next Friday. This report will come home, the individual reports. But I know those are really small, but you can see that green is all the students that are at or above benchmark. And then in this report, dark blue means on watch. Yellow is an intervention, and urgent intervention is red. This is our kindergarten. Started the year. Now, part of it is kindergarten students don't know everything we're doing, right? So 49% of our kids were at benchmark to start the year. Now 80% of them are. So obviously, part of it is learning how things work, but part of it is what we've been doing with our students. I would like to say more of what we're doing with our students is what's causing that. And you can see there that at the very bottom, it's hard to see, but we have 5 students that have urgent intervention and 6 that are at intervention. So 11 students, which is 11% of our students are in the yellow and red category, which we need to continue to work on. But considering we were at 49% benchmark when we started, that's a huge improvement. And it just goes to show sometimes students come to us not having any preschool experience, and it doesn't mean they're going to be a special needs student. This may not have been exposed to the curriculum and the rigor. So, like when parents ask about kindergarten, a lot of times I'll tell them, they'll say, my child turned 5 in July. Should I send them or should I not? I don't have an answer for you. Some students who turn 5 in July, it's fine, right? Other students, waiting a year till they're more mature, it just depends on their experiences and the supports. But what I will tell people is that all day, every day kindergarten is an academic program. So it's not like when I went to kindergarten where it's half day and I remember playing with a truck and we took a nap. There's no naps. Sometimes early in the year kids take naps, but we don't schedule them. There is a snack time in the afternoon, but it's very rigorous and academic compared to what it was, 40 years ago. 30, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, probably 40 years ago, 45 years ago. 45 years ago for me. Here's our first grade. Now, first grade has 2 reports. The report on the right is STAR. Students are put in a STAR assessment if they are considered probable readers, meaning they're able to read. So we had 27 students that started the year that were past the early literacy skill piece and actually reading. They were readers, probable readers. So you can see there on the right report, the fall 100% of our kids were benchmark, and the winter 100% of our kids were benchmark. So 27 kids stayed benchmark. Now it makes sense, right? There are kids that are reading already at the beginning of first grade. The left report is STAR early literacy, meaning they're not really probable readers yet. It's really testing them on skills, phonemic awareness. So those categories are a little bit different. So the total first grade population is both those reports together. But for STAR early literacy, the fall was 74%, the winter 67%. So that kind of went backwards. But once again, there's lots of things to play into. So we come back from Christmas break, and the staff were told sometime this week you need to give the test. So depending on when the teacher chose to give it, I'm not making an excuse here, it's possible we're still in this lag of Christmas holidays. But all stuff that's really important, very important for us to look at and pay attention to. Here's our second grade benchmark for STAR, 65% in the fall to 78% this winter. So that's going in the right direction. Third grade, 70 to 81. Fourth grade, 64 to 78. And fifth grade, 73 to 75. Any questions about any of those items? And like I shared last year, I don't know if you remember this, but I showed you a chart of all of this data per student, color-coded in a spreadsheet per grade. We still do that. Mrs. Gonzalez does that for me. Every time we do a test, building-wide, she enters the data into a spreadsheet for us, so it's all color-coded. So we are able to quickly see who are kids that maybe need enrichment, who are kids that might need extra help, not just an overall, here's a building picture. It's per student. So, and if parents call, when parents call about questions, those are the first reports I look at. A lot of times when I'm on the phone, I'm looking at those reports, just making sure I understand exactly where they started and where they're at. Sometimes it's a legit concern, like, hey, you know what you're saying on the phone, we're recognizing happening too. Other times it's, yes, you're right, they're still kind of struggling, but their trend line's going, like the gap that they are closing or the growth that they are making is significant, even though they may still be in an intensive or urgent intensive category. Okay, just a few more things. Mine's actually pretty short because that's pretty normal. I wanted to share with you reading curriculum timeline. So at your last board meeting, you guys approved MyView Savas, which is reading curriculum for grades 2 through 5. Tonight on the board agenda is to ask you to approve Benchmark Advance, which is reading curriculum for K1. We did like a whole year and a half to almost 2 years of, year and a half at least, of reading curriculum meetings and looking at curriculum. And I had pushed really hard for our staff. I would really like to see us use one company, but it became very evident the harder I pushed, it didn't matter, that it was clear that every product provided does not do a good job K5. So like what we need in K1 with the basic skills, Benchmark Advanced did a much better job of helping us with that. Where Savas was better at, I'm trying to remember all the details we talked about. On comprehension, writing, I know was a big concern for 3rd, 4th, and 5th because when you get to the state test, you have to be able to write 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. And so curriculum-wise, Benchmark Advanced was best for K1, and Savas was best for 2 through 5. So that's why you had 2 different things on your agenda. And Benchmark Advanced encouraged me not to do anything till after Christmas, after the new year, because they said if you guys would have approved it in December and I would have signed the contract, then it's possible when we get to the end of our contract, we'd be in this middle of the year kind of mess. Meaning they thought we signed into the calendar year 2024, so they said, can you just wait till the calendar 2025? So the goals are that the teaching materials will be here before March. That's our goal. We do have actually Savas, MyView. Some of the things came last week. A few came today. Obviously, Benchmark Advanced haven't shown up yet because I haven't signed the contract yet. But PD, I have scheduled for grades kindergarten and 1st. Benchmark Advanced Professional Development will happen on March 3rd. I've secured subs for all our K1 staff. That'll be a half-day training for both of them. So it'll be, I think, 1st grade in the morning and kindergarten in the afternoon. And Savas is working on trying to get the PD set up for either the 4th through the 7th, sometime the 4th or 7th. So hopefully we're going to get PD for our K2, K1 staff on the 3rd. That's going to happen. But on the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, we're going to get 2nd through 5th grades professional development on implementation of a new product. Okay? Goal will be that the student materials will arrive this spring sometime. Obviously next fall we're going to begin using the new curriculum. October 24th, which is next year's PD day in the fall. Already arranged for MyView. They have like a 3-hour follow-up PD, and it's really about how are things going, what are your struggles, how can we help you as a company support your transition. Benchmark Advanced didn't seem to think that would be necessary, but agreed to if our teachers in September say to me, we really would like some PD on that day, So on the 24th of next year, the plan is that our PD time will be used for reading curriculum, if nothing else, to have cross grade level and in grade level dialogue about what's working, what's not working. Because with any new product, there's going to be bumps in the road. Any questions about that at all? And this is all going to meet the science of reading requirements that the state put out. The last thing there, I just have some upcoming dates. We will begin kindergarten registration. So if you know anybody's got a kindergartner for next year, on February 3rd, it's a Monday. Final forms will be ready for the 25-26 kindergarten students. The more we can get registered early, the better for us. We can plan. Allen County Spelling Bee, we already talked about, it's February 22nd. Mrs. Dick Reedy and Mrs. Wiedenbein's 4th grade class will have their wax museum on March 13th in the elementary gym. So if you'd like to see history come alive, we'd like to encourage you to come to that. The other 4th grade classrooms will do theirs later in the year. Father-daughter dance is either going to be the 8th or 22nd. Mrs. McKissick is still waiting to hear back on a few things. They're trying to work around high school schedules. I think she said there was there's a DC trip, and there's also choir, choir competition maybe. So she needs to make sure her Interact students can be there. So that's still kind of up in the air. Spring Arts Festival is the 25th of April. It's a Friday. Author illustrator Bruce Hale will be here on May 12th. Relay for Life, May 9th. I guess I did that in the wrong order. Senior Walk, May 14th, and Kindergarten Screening, May 27th, 28th. So since I'm not going to present again, I thought I'd just say, here are the kind of the main dates for the elementary that if you'd like to come see what's happening, you want to show up for an hour, watch Author Illustrator, or you're more than welcome to do so. Any questions?
A comment.
Yes.
So appreciate all the work you and your staff have done with the science of reading and the various curriculum changes. The state is very fond of saying, here's a new standard. And there's really two approaches you can take when that happens. You can either go, okay, I guess we'll go out and find something and make it work. Or you can dedicate the time and effort that your folks obviously did. And that's the way you get the winning scores you
Well, we
presented
hope
at
so.
the beginning. So
I
I
will tell you.
appreciate that.
Myself included, there's a part of me and some of our staff that are going, is that going to be better than more grading? I don't know. I hope so because we're following the law. I'm not trying to. I'm going to sound arrogant, but I don't care. I think what we're doing over there is really good stuff. So I'll be curious to see if the product makes us really any better, or if we're going okay, but what we were doing had better. We'll see. But we did. Thank you. We did do our best. Trying to vet it all out. So, okay, thank you.
And the right that screen is still very crooked.
It's very good. I tried to fix it.
Thank you, Mr. Renner. Okay, next on the agenda is special recognitions. Mr. Kennedy?
I had 0 emails, and Mr. Renner is my monthly regular, so.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is items from superintendent.
Okay, well, the Ohio School Boards Association has designated January as School Board Recognition Month. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your service and present this certificate from us and the Ohio School Boards Association. Mrs. Ernest? Mr. White? Yeah, we'll get it out of here. Thank you. And Mr. White? Thank you, sir. Mr. Minnick?
PI projects.
PI projects, we're still working away on the entranceways at both the middle school and the high school. The tentative deadline is March 7th, so we're encouraging the contractors to try to keep a steady pace to get it done. There's been some trying to feel us out to see if we'd extend that deadline. I said, not unless we're working earnestly to get to it. So hopefully we can get it done within that time frame. In our hallways in all 3 buildings, we now have room signs outside the doors, vertical signs that you can read them from down the hallway instead of having to stand right in front of the door.
that would help any first responders coming into the building to identify the trouble areas that may have been identified by others as needing attention. Board policies, we're in the final stages of the policy review with our Neola rep. We have the 5th 4-hour session scheduled for this Thursday. It's been pretty grueling, but we're getting there. Other than that pretty much covers my report for tonight.
Next on the agenda is the superintendent consent agenda.
Okay, recommendation for employment/resignation. Board reserves the right to treat any offer of employment as withdrawn if the contract is not signed and returned within 10 business days of mailing. All employment is contingent upon proper certification and paperwork required for the position. All bus drivers have met all federal CDL, ODE requirements for certification. All salaries are per annual salary notice commensurate with degree and experience. Item 1 is certified staff. Certified staff changes for the 2024-2025 school year. Jenna Baroker, teacher from Masters to Masters Plus 15, 8 years experience, effective the second semester of 24-25. Nathan Hillary, teacher, changed from Masters to Masters Plus 15, 16 years experience, effective second semester of the 2024-2025 school year. Julia Washington Allen, teacher, changed from Masters to Masters Plus 15, 3 years experience, effective second semester for the 2024-2025 school year. Item B, certified college credit plus compensation for the first semester of the 2024-2025 school year. Per BEA agreement, teachers who teach CCP shall receive additional compensation of $150 per semester per individual for each CCIP class taught, up to a maximum of $600 per semester. To be eligible for payment, a teacher may not be absent from a CCP class more than 6 times per semester, excluding professional development and personal days. Payment shall be paid in the last pay of the respective semester. Sean Blevins, $600, Sean Woolley, $450, Corey Fisher, $300, Tammy Niemeyer, $150, Julia Washington Allen, $600, Brad Wilkerson, $300. Certified supplemental employment for the 2024-2025 school year. Bobby Hall, baseball assistant at the 8th grade level. Level 2, 6%. Stephen Hanold, baseball assistant JV, level 2, 8%. Travis Lepley, track assistant, level 2, 9%. Julia Washington Allen, softball assistant varsity, level 2, 8%. Certified substitutes for the 2024-2025 school year. Certified substitutes approved by the Allen County Educational Service Center. Number 2, classified staff. Classified leave of absence for the 2024-2025 school year. Tammy Barden Reicheldifer, bus driver and monitor, beginning January 14th through January 17th, 2025, pursuant to FMLA ORC 331913. Classified resignations for the 2024-2025 school year. Amy Mock, secretary, full-time, to accept another position in the district effective January 31st, 2025. Classified employment. Amy Mock, secretary, part-time, 2-year limited contract, continuation of current contract expired in 2026. Moved to 210 total contact days, less days worked under old contract, from August 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2025. Year 13, 4 hours per day, effective February 1st, 2025. Classified leave of absence for 2024-2025. Tammy Barton Reicheldifer, bus driver and monitor, beginning January 14th through January 17th, pursuant to FMLA ORC 331913. Classified substitute employment, 2024-2025 school year. Substitute bus driver, approved for $28.82 a run, Channing Mikesel. Outside employment, number 3, Thomas Chapman, baseball assistant, level 0, 4% split contract. Carly Fagan, softball assistant 7, level 2, 6%. Michael Fry, softball assistant 8, level 2, 6%. Ted Cook, track assistant, middle school, level 1, 5%. Troy Corkate, baseball assistant, 9, level 1, 7%. Corey Lorenz, baseball assistant, 7, level 0, 4% split contract. Jeremy Magrum, baseball assistant varsity, level 2, 8%. Timon Moore, track assistant, level 1, 8%. Elena Schrock, track assistant, middle school, level 2, 6%. Andrew Schrock, track assistant, middle school, level 1, 5%. Trevor Schroeder, track assistant, level 2, 9%. Volunteer coaches for the 2024-2025 school year. This list is included for liability insurance purposes. All volunteer coaches are contingent upon proper certification and paperwork required by ODE for volunteer coaches. Daryl Gossard, baseball. Casey Crendel, baseball. Joel Parker, baseball. Keaton Phillips, bowling. Brian Rockhold, softball. Bruce Wilhelm, softball. Athletic support personnel, 2024-2025 school year. The attached list of athletic support personnel shall be paid for out of the athletic fund, $300 per schedule.
Okay, I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Lighty. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Lighty,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Mrs. Ernst.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is treasurer's report.
Here we go.
Yeah, now that we're kind of 6 months in, it's kind of a good snapshot in time to kind of look, see where we're at with general fund. Again, looking at the 6 months, July 1 to December 31. You know, it is a good period to, you know, again, get a handle on some things and kind of talk about what's coming. So at the end of my slides, you know, I want to touch on some things that are coming, you know, what's in the news, what looks like it's going to be in the near future as far as some of the educational topics as we look at the next, probably the next legislative budget cycle and really what's coming there. But for right now, revenue, we're at 9.4 million, expenses 10.7, a net loss of 1.3, an ending balance of 15.2, and we'll kind of talk through that loss part as far as the first 6 months. You know, kind of that breakdown of revenue, when we look at the real estate versus the state aid, you know, real estate slightly over 3 million, state aid of it 4.3 million in the 6 month period. You know, the expenditure side, personnel 5.7 million for salaries, benefits 1.9 million, the purchase service at 2.3. Again, that's elevated a little bit due to some of the repairs that, you know, we've kind of undertaken when we look at some of the summer and fall as far as the different things that we've done really over the summer that got into this fiscal year. Supplies at 301,000. Again, kind of that, make it up that 10.7 million for this 6 month period. Again, kind of taking a look at the revenue, again, kind of charting it with the state aid in blue, kind of the real estate in green, personal property tax in red. Again, just that visual of where we're at for this 6 month period. On the expenditure side, you know, again, when you look at the salaries and wages at 53%, benefits at 18%, probably not a bad spot. You know, when you talk about, you know, the schools, you know, the staffing is a big piece of what we do. You know, so having that number, you know, roughly, you know, we're under 73%, you know, so it's not a bad spot to be in as far as we're looking at the staffing and where we're at. Yeah, the trend piece on the 12/31 trend data, looking at where we've been. When we look at 2020, they're 13.8, you know, moving up to 14.1, 15.1. Last year we were 15.6, this year 15.2. as far as that ending cash balance, 12/31. Again, kind of that graph showing the kind of the ebb and flow of the cash as, again, we get the, those real estate settlements, typically in August and February, and then it's kind of a spin down from there. Investments as we look at 12/31, again, the Star Ohio and the SJS, again, kind of the two main places that we've got money. Interest rates, we're still in a pretty good spot. Star Ohio, we're still close to 5%, so, kind of bumping up the interest income, and I'll probably go ahead and report on that next month. I should have added it to this slide, but I'll try to report that next month. Food service, again, kind of looking at 12/31. On the federal revenue side, 176,000, local 172. Expenses 596, so we've got a current loss to date 245,000. Again, part of that's going to be that serving line, ending balance of 738. So again, probably not in a bad spot for the 6 months, ended 12/31. Athletic fund, starting to get the basketball numbers in there. So, boys basketball we're at 14,007, girls basketball just over 6,000, football was 42,000. Kind of interesting to look at the football trend, depending on when we have those home games with probably Elida Shawnee, that's going to swing the football revenue. I'll try to add the trend data on that just because it is interesting to look at how the schedule impacts the revenue. Total revenue for the 300 fund, 132,000, expenses 132,000, so right now it's at a gain 116, ending balance of 82.3. General fund expenditures for athletics 278,000 for the 6-month period we're looking at. Last month we touched on the valuation. The other part of the valuation as far as the property taxes go, we touched on it last month. As far as noting that there's going to be a bump going from January 1, 24 to January 1, 25, 333 million up to 394 million. This time I wanted to add to it then, kind of looking at that trend on really the general fund tax estimate, the general fund revenue tax estimate based on the valuation piece. Because I think statewide, there's a lot of discussion about, did the valuations go up too high? For some areas, Columbus, did it go 40%? Is it too much? Legislatively, I think they're going to probably react to that. Here I think it was roughly 18%. Some areas in Allen County probably closer to 30%. So there's kind of an upside and a downside to that. Because keep in mind that in the state funding formula, there's still a mechanism, and I think I listed it later in my slides. There's still a mechanism that if your valuation goes up, the state share of revenue will go down. That still is in play. It's still somewhat confusing. It's still probably somewhat over-reliant on property taxes. And I'm also going to report a little bit on, there was an article Mr. Estes printed that, I think there's going to be some discussions coming forward, and this is going to be part of it, is there going to be some adjustment to either the 20 mil floor or the property taxes, how it's calculated, and there may be some adjustments that would impact what we're getting in relationship to this. But the big thing I want you to take away from this is, we're probably going to get a bump in some revenue, but we're also going to see the state share go down, meaning we'll get less in state money down the road based on this higher valuation. So that's still incorporated in the formula. They're looking at valuation, and they're looking at the income levels of the district taxpayers. Both, if they go up, your state share of what we get from the state coming here is going to go down. So again, it's still slightly confusing, slightly a mess, and we're going to keep talking about it. But the Fair School Funding Plan, a couple things to think about. Cup Patterson put this, it was like 3 years in the making. It was a bipartisan process. Involved some of the top tax experts. When you look at Mike Sobel, Howard Fleeter, a lot of the meetings with school officials. I was at some of the regional meetings. A lot went into it, and I think, again, some of those mechanics of it, if the property values go up, income levels go up, the state share is going to decrease. But, you know, I think keep in mind that, again, the public schools, you got the accountability piece of the testing. You know, when you look at the things that Mr. Renner does in his building, that accountability with the testing, the financial accountability that the public schools go through with the audits every year, still happens. You know, when we start having those debates about where some of those dollars are going. You know, in the news, you know, the article that was in the Columbus Dispatch that Mr. Estes was sharing with me, you know, I'm gonna pull some of the quotes. You know, I'll be generic here. This is what was in the article, that the Republican leaders are looking, you know, at cutting spending for public education. Voucher advocate was quoted as questioning how well public schools are spending their money. You know, one quote was, I don't think there's a third phase to cut Patterson. Public education is on the chopping block. You know, so not really some great quotes when you look at, like I said, all the pieces are at play. When I think when we talk about, is there going to be a tax policy change that could have a negative impact to us? Is there going to be a, you know, a spending slowdown as far as the state budget? And by the way, are we going to, you know, will some of the dollars, you know, want to be allocated for, you know, the private schools with the voucher piece? You know, so I think there's really a lot going on with some of those comments. Yeah, so again, is that, what does that mean? You know, again, are we looking at a funding cut with the state budget for the next time? Are we looking at tax reform on the property side to change the 20 mil floor, which could be a negative, voucher expansion, expansion of money to private schools for facilities? You know, again, I think there's a lot of debates coming when it comes to public education. CUP report, a couple things I did want to pull, because the most recent CUP report's out there from ODE, expense per pupil. You know, state average spending is $16,310 per pupil. Similar district average would be $14,280, the schools that look a lot like us, those 20 schools that look the most like Bath. And then Bath Local Schools, what we're spending per pupil, $12,977. So you can see when you compare it to the state average, we're well below the state average. I'm gonna probably add to this data for next time, because I wanted to put those similar district numbers up there so you can see the schools that look the most like Bath, what they look like. On the administrative side, again, the CUP report from ODE for fiscal year 24, state average on the administrative expense per pupil, state average 2,207 per pupil, similar district 1,732. Bath schools were at 1,581. So again, I think, you know, make that argument that on the administrative side, I think we can still say we're well below the state average, which is a good thing. And again, I think when you look at the test results across the district, there's some good numbers there. So, you know, I think I would make that argument to, you know, the legislative person that hopefully I can get a meeting with somebody that, you know, I think spending, we're in a good spot, and I think results wise, we're in a good spot. That's all I've got. The only thing I was going to add to the slide was and I will have a list of, I think the list of donations, was that in the packet?
Yes.
Which I think we talked about moving that to a monthly. Would you be okay if I added it like per month instead of waiting to the half month? You know, a lot of donations that just really make things better for the students here. You know, that donation list is over 27,000 for really from July through December. And you know, when you look at, you know, whether it's the band boosters, the PTS, the Bath boosters, you know, from supporting athletics to supporting the arts to supporting t-shirts to supporting, you know, there's a variety of programs that's really, like I said, it adds to what the students, their experience here. So definitely, you know, everybody on that list, I would love, you know, like to thank. And then, like I said, moving forward, if we do that every month and just list them so that those folks are recognized. And like I said, whether it's, you know, the small ones help, and you know, again, I'd like to thank those folks. So I think that list is in your packet. Mr. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Ernest?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is treasurer consent agenda.
And again, I think I've covered the bulk of that as far as the activity for 6 months ending 12/31/20.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lighty, seconded by Mr. White. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Ernest?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Lighting?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, superintendent's report.
Okay, we have A, Benchmark Education Curriculum, approve the attached quote from Benchmark Education Company to purchase kindergarten and first grade curriculum at a total cost of $61,063.40.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Moved by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Lighty. Any discussion?
Is this annual or is this for a 3-year contract?
Roll call?
Mrs. Ernest?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Lighting?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is special education resolution.
Okay, special education resolution, motion to approve the below resolution to accept changes from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce regarding special education. Whereas the Board of Education is required in accordance with federal and state law, i.e. the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, IDEA, 34 CFR 300-201, the Ohio Revised Code 332308, and in Ohio Administrative Code 3301-51-01, to adopt and implement written policies and procedures approved by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And whereas in December 2024, DO released updated special education model policies and procedures that an educational agency can adopt to meet the preceding legal requirement. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby adopts the DO's model policies and agrees to use the written policies and procedures in accordance with the IDEA and the Ohio operating standards for Ohio educational agencies serving children with disabilities, hereafter referred to as operating standards. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education agrees to use the required special education forms that are located on the DO's website. And be it further resolved, the board acknowledges that the model policies, while comprehensive, do not include every requirement set forth in the IDEA, the regulations implementing IDEA, the operating standards, the Ohio Revised Code, and/or the Ohio Administrative Code. And the board recognizes its obligation to follow these laws regardless of whether their provisions are restated in the model policies. And be it resolved, the board authorizes the superintendent to notify the DO of the board's adoption of the model policies through the DO's monitoring system by uploading a copy of this board resolution on or before March 30th, 2025, and by November 30th for each subsequent school year.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Lighty. Any discussion? Okay, roll call?
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Lighting?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Ernest?
Yes.
Item C, chaperones, volunteers, guest speakers for the 2024-2025 school year. This list is included for liability insurance purposes. All volunteers, chaperones, and guest speakers have met the necessary requirements.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Lighting?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Ernest?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is report from administrators.
The written reports are there on the counter for anyone that would like to see a report on the food service program or the transportation program.
Okay.
They're back to back, by the way, so if you're looking for the second one, it's on the back.
All right, next on the agenda is hearing from the public. Items not on the agenda, blue cards. We don't have any. Next is item
I had shared with the board some proposed objectives for 2025 that relate to a variety of items of better community communication, continuing our work with the OFCC and the state related to building funding. Those are primarily the main goals, so I would appreciate the feedback of the board as to how we want to integrate that into our 2025 year.
Anything else? Okay. Next is executive session. I actually believe we're gonna table that, so we have no reason to go into executive session tonight. So I guess I can just skip all that. So next on the agenda is adjournment. Our next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 7 PM. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. White. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Lighty,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Mrs. Ernest.